In this video, we'll be tracing the cosmological beliefs of humans from prehistory to around the time of Isaac Newton, and how many of the ideas which modern science seems to think it has done away with, namely a human-centered universe with God as its creator and king, I would reckon that they were dead wrong. And in fact, our modern cosmology reveals creation to be far more grand and sublime than even the most pious religious thinkers of antiquity could have known. This is the frame that we need before we approach the grand cosmological questions, the Big Bang Theory, the large-scale structure of the universe, dark matter, dark energy, and the eventual fate of the universe. It's supposed by anthropologists that in the early history of humankind, we believed in a universe populated by spirits which we projected human characteristics onto. These natural phenomena were reckoned to be extensions of the cognitive perceptual syntax of our primitive ancestors. And then, as we consolidated into ancient civilizations, these spirits amalgamated into gods who personified abstractions of our categories of thought and experience, and then ultimately this terminated on one god, with meaning and purpose for humans in creation. But this was all illusory, says modern science. But nevertheless, this worldview is very enticing, that humans were made to work and to love and to serve God and to mediate between heaven and earth, as symbolized by God's charge to Adam and Eve when they're expelled from the Garden of Eden. According to Bible scholar Matthew Pajot, the scientific discoveries which supposedly debunked this traditional cosmology symbolize the very same pattern of the expulsion from the Garden of Eden. At first we have the tree of life, which is the logos or the chokmah, God's word and wisdom, which is at the center of everything and extends upwards into heaven and downwards into earth, which represents spiritual meaning and physical reality respectively. These two are in perfect union, with the sun revolving around and giving lattice to our human experience of days and nights, not materialistically or mechanistically formulated, but an experientially formulated worldview. And next we came to believe in a geocentric world where the earth revolved around the sun, but we were now seeing things in terms of physical or mechanistic or material things, even though we were still wrong about the exact physics of it, that the earth revolved around the sun, and this represents the eyes opened. And then the heliocentric model literally physically represents us wandering in exile. We're revolving around the sun. We occupy a new position in space-time and return yearly in a perpetual cycle of vanity and nothingness. It's not about us. We've lost our identity with the heliocentric model. We're left with the pathetic questions. Who are we? Why are we here? And these are unanswerable to modern cosmology. So, how do we proceed from here in our post-Copernican world? From a strictly materialistic perspective, Pajot says, science has debunked most of traditional cosmology. We're beyond heliocentric. We live in a near infinite and centerless universe. The modern outlook was most succinctly expressed by the great Stephen Hawking. He said, the human race is just a chemical scum on a moderate-sized planet, orbiting around a very average star in the outer suburb of one among 100 billion galaxies. We're so insignificant that I couldn't believe the whole universe exists for our benefit. That would be like saying that you would disappear if I closed my eyes. Joseph Campbell said that the purpose of the hero's journey is to return to the place he started and to know the terrain for the very first time. So maybe we have to incorporate the meaning and insight of the geocentric model with our modern cosmological knowledge. But how is this possible? Scientists look down on theists. They say that they're holding on to a metaphysical imaginary friend for fear of the cold and meaningless abyss of our modern universe. Take a moment to let this sink in, what we're told by modern science. There is no meaning or purpose. There is no teleology. Nobody cares about you. You're an accident of random and pointless processes. You shouldn't even exist, technically speaking. Like Nietzsche said, what was holiest and mightiest of all that the world has yet owned has bled to death under our knives. Who will wipe this blood off of us? We've eaten the apple and swallowed the seeds. How do we get back to Eden? The answers to this thankfully turn out to be manifold, pun intended for those who get it, and are all supported by the 21st century metaphysics, the cognitive theoretic model of the universe by Chris Langan. I will not in this video be presenting the logical formulation so much as the conceptual formulation of how the CTMU resolves the problem of nihilism in modern cosmology. I'll offer a few quotes and connect some dots and see if you can kind of conceptualize this for yourself. Thomas Bradwardine, 14th century physicist and cleric, said, quote, God is that whose power is not number and whose being is not enclosed. God is infinite sphere, whose center is everywhere and circumference nowhere. The enormity and grandeur of the physical universe is not evidence of our unimportance, but rather God's splendor and majesty. It's like Isaiah said, look up on high and see who created these, the stars, the heavens, the galaxies. It's the hundreds of billions of galaxies, all of this design, all this beauty. It can't be random. It's evidence revealed of a purposeful designer. Existence everywhere is the will to exist, says Langen. The grandeur and sublimity of our physical universe have been selected from a manifold of potentials. They've been willed into existence by a conscious and willful designer. Do this, literally. Like Isaiah said, go up and look up at the stars, the constellations, the galaxies on a clear night. It's there. It has a meaning. It has a purpose, just like you do. There is a destiny written for us in the stars, but what that means is that as a free individual, you must identify not with yourself, but with the entire cosmos as an extension of your own being, and derive the perfect combination of humility and power from this realization. It was said of Rabbi Simcha Bunam that he carried 2 slips of paper, one in each pocket. One said, Bishvili nivra ha'olam, for my sake the world was created. On the other, Va'anoki afar ve'efer, I am but dust and ashes, humility and power. You are directly connected to all other human beings as images in ways that you cannot discern on this plane of existence, and trustees of the author of all creation, the source of all knowledge and power. Consider critically the following syllogism. We are part of the universe, we are alive, therefore the universe is alive. It's logically unbreakable, yet so foreign to our modern minds because of the dualism which pervades our thinking. Our current models, in the vein of Cartesian coordinate systems, totally exclude the human being from theory and observation, which is absurd because the human being is where all of that theory and observation is coming from. What we see, the cosmos sees, and where God is the creator and sustainer of the cosmos and we are his images, he sees it too. He shares our hopes, our dreams, our goals, our fears. He gets us. The cosmos is alive. Maybe our primitive ancestors weren't so off base when they saw the world as brimming with spirits, with what the Japanese would call the kami, the spiritual power, the spiritual holy powers, the spiritual identities of all phenomena out of the ordinary, and the world is filled by divine intelligences. The cosmos is the playground of consciousness, striving towards a higher and higher form of unity and love, and to rediscover God in the realm of the mundane, and realize the sublimity and grandeur which pervades everything. Dan Simmons says, quote, love was as hardwired into the structure of the universe as gravity and matter. Like Chris Langen says, perhaps the most profound change in our worldview will come from learning that living, breathing human beings are essential and logically necessary ingredients of reality, not just emergent phenomena which supervene on brute physical processes. He also says mankind is then a participant in the creation of the universe itself, so that we have a closed loop. I believe that there is a level on which science and religious metaphor are mutually compatible. Lift high your eyes and see. Who created these? He who sends out their host by count, who calls them each by name, because of his great might and vast power, not one fails to appear. You are a link in the great chain of being. From the angels to the inchworm, your individual identity is of the utmost importance to God, whether you realize it or not. Like the monk Giordano Bruno, who was burned at the stake in Rome in 1600, said, quote, thus is the excellence of God magnified, and the greatness of his kingdom made manifest. He is glorified not in one, but in countless suns, not in a single earth, but in 1,000, dare I say, in an infinity of worlds. The cosmologists themselves, now cited to prove atheism, knew that in order to make a fundamental theory work, God was the primary and necessary thing that you needed. Chris Langen says, quote, God is the principle of consistency who binds the universe together. It cannot work without the universal distributed form of God. That's why he has the handy acronym of God as global operator descriptor, because it's what's needed to make operations and descriptions logically coherent. Take away God and you have uninstantiated, patternless nothingness. Zero, zilch, nada. Take Isaac Newton, arguably the greatest scientist in human history, said, quote, "This most beautiful system of the sun, planets, and comets could only proceed from the counsel and dominion of an intelligent and powerful being." He said further, "And from true lordship it follows that the true God is living, intelligent, and powerful. From the other perfections that he is supreme or supremely perfect. He is eternal and infinite, omnipotent and omniscient. That is, he endures from eternity to eternity, and he is present from infinity to infinity. He rules all things, and he knows all things that happen or can happen." This is why Matthew Pajot says that biblical cosmology describes reality at the metacognitive level, and that the story of the fall as it relates to cosmological developments in the last millennium is really about the process of knowledge itself and the dangers of acquiring greater material knowledge at the expense of spiritual insight. We've lost this as we've made all these great strides in our cosmology. We've lost the plot, what it's all about, who is the author of all of creation. And I don't see how this could be argued seriously that we've lost this spiritual insight at the expense of greater material knowledge, because when you take into account the fact that the vast majority of scientists produced believe that there's no God, no purpose, no meaning in our lives and the life of the cosmos, despite the evidence of teleology produced by the insight of their very disciplines. The Copernican revolution is a reiteration of the narrative of the fall. We are wandering in exile, and the way back is all eyes on God, all eyes on Eden. The Hebrew word for exile is galut, and the word for redemption is geulah. It's just one letter off. The way back, they're the same word in a sense. And so the way back is not a return to the naivete of pre-modernity. The garden is a small and sheltered place, but to realize that redemption, that geulah, is everywhere in galut. It's everywhere you look. And the garden is infinitely bigger than we ever thought possible. Everything thus far presented in this video is why Pajot says that even though these technical discoveries have locally debunked traditional cosmology, they have ironically proven its significance at a higher level. Lift up your eyes and see. Who created these? He who sends out their host by count, who calls them each by name. Because of his great might and vast power, not one fails to appear. Why do you say, O Jacob? Why declare, O Israel, my way is hid from the Lord, my cause is ignored by God? Do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord God is God from of old, creator of earth from end to end. He never grows faint or weary. His wisdom cannot be fathomed. He gives strength to the weary, fresh vigor to the spent. Youths may grow weary and faint, and young men may stumble and fall, but those who trust in the Lord shall renew their strengths. As eagles grow new plumes, they shall run and not grow weary. They shall march and not grow faint. Let the light shine forth in the darkness. May the peace of our Father in heaven be upon you. Like and subscribe. Peace.